everyone, here for Seconds Out, joined by, for the first time, highly respected journalist Dan Rafael, whose Substack you can find at danrafael.substack.com. Dan, I enjoyed your retweet of the Iron Sheik's Christmas message a few years back, so Merry Christmas in the same vein to the viewers of Seconds Out. But aside from that, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me on. It's good to be on with you.
Right, I'll try to freshen up the questions a little bit because I know you've spoken to a few outlets, but 7 rounds to 5, I believe you scored it to Oleksandr Usyk. We spoke to Frank Warren yesterday, who rewatched the fight and said it was a close fight, but Tyson Fury just won it. He felt Fury just won it. Have you had the chance to rewatch the fight? If not, any scope you feel for Fury to win that fight?
I have rewatched it, and no, I disagree with Frank respectfully, and I'm not on Frank's case about it because Frank is when he's watching it, I believe, he could perhaps speak to it better than I because he knows his own mind, but he's got to be looking at it from some standpoint of the emotion involved because that's his guy. I mean, he's got not only a relationship with Tyson Fury on a personal basis, but also business basis. They've been together for a long time. He really wanted his guy to win. I can understand that. And it was a close fight. But I'm not in the minority on this whatsoever. I do not think there's a real way you can get to 7 rounds for Tyson to win. And it doesn't mean that Tyson's a bad fighter, he's no good, or he can't fight anymore, or anything like that. He just happened to lose probably by about, 1 or 2 rounds to a guy that was just a little bit better than him on that night, the same way what occurred in their first fight, which is maybe slightly more pronounced, I guess, because of the fact that Tyson took such a whooping in the last few rounds of that fight and almost got knocked out in round 9 and scored a knockdown against them. But, Frank is entitled to his opinion. I think the rest of the world pretty much disagrees, though.
There's a debate in the aftermath of Usyk Fury 2, especially over here in the UK and on TalkSport regarding Fury and his demeanor, the fire in his eyes, I guess, like there were in the Wilder fights, and replicating that into the Usyk rematch. Can we draw the conclusion that the former version of Fury in the past, like really gutting it out and in the trenches, might not be there as strongly as it was before?
I think that's possible. I mean, at his age and the amount of tough, difficult fights he has had, and the life that he has lived, it would be expected to not be what you were, when those Fury Wilder fights took place. I mean, the first fight was in 2018. It's a long time ago already. The anniversary just occurred not that long ago. The second fight was in 2020. So, the years go by. It's not. I don't think that he wasn't hungry for the victory. I don't think that he didn't put in a good effort and do a good training camp. He certainly came in a lot better, I think, mentally and physically, surely than he did against Francis Ngannou, for example. But the time takes its toll, and it's not even just about what Fury had, because I've said this in the post fight. I thought Tyson fought a really good fight that night. The fact of the matter is he probably would have beaten most other heavyweights in the world, if not all the other heavyweights in the division at the top, except for Oleksandr Usyk, who has something about him. There's a reason why he's undefeated. There's a reason why he was undisputed. There's a reason why he's an Olympic gold medal winner and an undisputed cruiserweight champion. He just was just good enough. One thing that's great about Oleksandr Usyk is even at the moments in that fight that he had with Fury, frankly, in the first fight and in the second fight, is that whenever Tyson Fury would get something going offensively, he couldn't keep it going because Usyk had a way of sort of negating it, of blunting it, of moving or smashing him with a straight left hand or doing something to put himself back in the position to do what he does the best. So there's nothing to be ashamed of to lose a fight like that to Oleksandr Usyk. I mean, I saw outrage, Ayman, that people were like, "Oh my God, 8-4! They did him so wrong. It's such a wide scorecard." In the world I live in, if you win a shutout or you win 11 rounds to 1, maybe 10 rounds to 2, that's a blowout scorecard. Even maybe 9-3 might be considered a blowout scorecard. 8-4 to me that's not a blowout. That's a close fight. 7-5. If you think it's that much closer, all you can do is give the other fighter one more round to make it close, because if you give him another round, it's a draw. So to me, 8-4, especially in a fight where every round is basically competitive, is not a blowout.
And in amongst all the post-fight reaction I caught, I did catch a glimpse of Carl Froch's reaction, and he suggested something I hadn't quite heard from many, was that Oleksandr Usyk, comparing his past performances against previous opponents, wasn't as good as he had been. Is this a version of Oleksandr Usyk that we can say now is past the peak of his powers and in decline, as Froch had suggested?
I agree with that, and I don't think I had to even see the fight that he had against Fury in the second fight. Again, just because you're past your peak doesn't mean, even on the other side of your mountain, you're still not way better than most other fighters. So his peak is probably gone, especially at his age. He's even older than Tyson Fury. and he had a much longer amateur career than Tyson Fury. But he's taking better care of himself, it seems to me, and he's stayed in better condition, and he hasn't had a lot of the type of issues and problems and distractions and all the things that have gone on in Tyson Fury's life that we've seen that have kind of derailed him here and there. Usyk hasn't had those issues, but yeah, anytime you get to that level and you've been in those kind of high caliber fights for a long time, it's going to take a toll. So, I mean, Tyson Fury's past his best also, but at their best, they're still better than most of the other fighters out there. It's just a natural progression of any professional boxer.
Usyk seems to have a few options on the table now. Dubois rematch, cruiserweight, retirement. What option do you think is most likely, and what would you like to see? And just adding a bit more context to that, Usyk is also appearing in a movie which normally observers would suggest is like having one foot outside the sport. So can we safely say Usyk is approaching the last turns of his career?
I think that's fair to say, but I do think he's going to continue to fight. It's rare to see the heavyweight champion retire, especially as an undefeated fighter, when there's still opportunities to make crazy money like he can make. In terms of what he'll do next, I'm assuming he's going to fight. He made that. He said that essentially at the post-fight press conference. He's going to take his time. He's going to rest. He's going to enjoy the holidays and chill out for a little bit. That's cool, and he should do that. He should enjoy the fruits of the labor. But he'll be back, and if he does come back in the ring in the next first part of next year at some point, Turki has said that he'd like to see him fight against a rematch against Daniel Dubois if Dubois defeats Joseph Parker. So that probably will be the case because Turki has a lot of sway, and he's the one that's putting up a lot of the money to make these events happen. So look, when he fought Dubois the first time, it was a one-sided ass kicking. I mean, it wasn't really a fight. I mean, the only thing that Daniel Dubois could even remotely hang his hat on was the fact that he scored a knockdown on a low blow that they called a low blow, or that he called a low blow, that was actually that he thought was a legal punch that actually was a low blow. We don't need to we're relitigate whether it's a low blow or not a low blow. It was 100% a low blow, no matter what the other side wants to bamboozle you with and make you think. But and then he basically quit on a jab in the fight and got knocked out. So for that reason, you'd see, well, why would there need to be a rematch? But I will give Daniel Dubois a lot of credit because since that loss, he has dusted himself off and he's come back very, very strong. Got a really good win against Gerald Miller. He got another really good win and a knockout in a fight where he was a big underdog against Filip Hrgovic. And then he came back and he scored the devastation against Anthony Joshua in September. So he's won those 3 fights all clean, all impressively. And now if he puts another win in his resume against Joseph Parker, who's another quality heavyweight who's been on his own good run the last several fights, who's a former title challenger, former title holder, all that. That would be 4 good wins in a row. And in my book, you've stayed busy, you've fought real guys, you've earned yourself another opportunity. I don't know if I have to see it. I mean, here's the reality. If he didn't have the IBF belt that he was gifted because they took it from Usyk, then there probably wouldn't be a call for the rematch. But if that's what Usyk wants, if that's what Turki wants, and is a chance to, I guess, take back what should rightfully be his in the IBF title, so be it. If it's not that, if Joseph Parker is the winner, I wouldn't mind seeing Joseph Parker challenge Oleksandr Usyk. That's an excellent fight also. And then there's other fighters that are near the top of the division. If he doesn't want to fight those guys, he can just go down the list and look at other contenders that he could give an opportunity to. Could be the winner, let's say, of Ajit Kabiel against Zhang. It could be against Martin Bakoli. Like, any of those fights are interesting. But there isn't no one big superstar fight because he's already defeated Joshua twice. He's already defeated Fury twice. And Deontay Wilder's career is basically over. And that would not even be a real fight at this point. So just look down the list of contenders and make your pick.
Of any of those contenders, and if I offered you on the other side a pick of Usyk versus Beterbiev at cruiserweight, would you be swayed to go for Usyk versus Beterbiev?
I'm not. I would be opposed to that. I mean, at this stage of the game, I think that would be a probably a very difficult fight for Beterbiev. I mean, he defeated Bivol by the thinnest of margins. There'd be a storyline there because in the Olympics, when Oleksandr Usyk won the gold in London, he defeated Beterbiev. If I'm not mistaken, it was in the semifinals to get to, or maybe it was the quarterfinals. But the point is, when they met up in the Olympic Games, he defeated him. Look, Usyk has always been a cruiserweight or bigger. Beterbiev has been a light heavyweight his whole career. So I don't know. And Usyk did speak about, I guess, a little bit in the pre-fight when he was asked, would you consider going, or he actually said this about perhaps going back to the cruiserweight division. I don't really think that's going to happen. That might be something more in your mind, because at the end of the day, when you've got your choice to make, the amount of money that he can make to fight in the heavyweight division as the heavyweight champion is going to be, multiples greater than what it would be if he were to fight at the cruiserweight division. So I don't think that's a real possibility. That said, better be as involved with Riyadh season and with Turkey. Obviously, Oleksandr Usyk is also. And if the fight is something that strikes the fancy of Turkey, Al Sheikh, then sure, anything like that can happen.
Warren seems to be the promoter positioned most prominently amongst the Riyadh season cards. Was Dubois jumping into the ring to challenge Usyk to that back-to-back rematch next? One of the chess pieces being moved into position as promoters look to have their fighters featured prominently on Riyadh season cards.
I mean, it didn't happen by accident. It's not like he rushed the security and threw himself in the ring. I'm sure that he was properly credentialed and was ushered into the ring and welcomed into the ring. And I have no problem with Daniel Dubois calling out Oleksandr Usyk for a rematch. He should want to have a rematch. He should want to make up for that dog shit performance that he had in the first fight. And he's proven himself, as I mentioned before, in the types of victories that he has had since then. Obviously, he still has to win the fight against Joseph Parker, but that would obviously put him in a great position. My quarrel with what Daniel Dubois did was the way that he did it. Here you have a great fighter like Oleksandr Usyk. He just wins this very emotional situation. He gets the victory yet again against Tyson Fury. It's been a long training camp, a long promotion. Obviously, a tough fight. It's a lot of emotion going on. And he jumped in the middle of his glory. And that's bush league. That's child shit. That's nonsense. You don't do that to another grown man. I'm surprised. A lot of guys might have punched him in the face in the ring right there. Oleksandr Usyk's not that type of guy, but you're talking about a man that's like a couple minutes removed from the victory. He's getting his interview on the broadcast, and Daniel Dubois jumps in like it's World Wrestling. I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, save your powder, right? You can still call the guy out. You're going to talk to you on the broadcast. Obviously, they brought him in the ring for a reason. As I mentioned, he didn't just rush in the ring. He's with the promoter. I know that he was there at their invitation. And we all know the history between him and Usyk, what happened in the first fight. So let the man have his moment of glory, do the interview, and when you're done, then you can call him out. Then you can do your thing. And to see him confront Usyk like that, it was just crazy to me because he's not that type of guy. Usyk, if Fury, different story. Fury is all that about the confrontation and the showmanship and the drama. But Oleksandr Usyk is a totally different kind of guy. He's not one that's moved by that type of nonsense. So I just thought it was the intention of calling him out was fine. It's the manner in which he did it that I had an issue with.
I heard you say on Talk Sport that the only fight really to make, or the fight that has to be made here for Fury, is that Fury versus Anthony Joshua fight, which has been called for many years. Going by their recent performances, does it suggest that Tyson Fury is the bona fide favorite? Was there anything more to it?
I mean, even before the recent performances, I think that Tyson Fury probably would have been the favorite. He's just I find it to be a more complete boxer. Anthony Joshua may be better when it comes to the one punch. But there's reasons you could see either guy winning, and it's the fight that the public has wanted for a long time. So we've lost out on other fights over the years that we didn't get that we wanted to see. Most recent case in point, at least in the heavyweight division, was certainly the Wilder fight against Anthony Joshua. It took forever for them to even get to the point where they could make it. They finally made it. Both the guys had their fights on the same card, and then Wilder got knocked out, and there went the fight. It'd be a real shame to see, even though they're diminished and they're not what they were. Neither one is undefeated. It's not for a world title, and many different things about the fight are not as interesting or as important or significant as it would have been, even just 2 or 3 years ago. It should still happen. I mean, they're on the backside of their careers, obviously, but they're not 100% done yet, and they can still make a lot of money in the fight, and it's still in a fight that a lot of folks would like to see. And if you went and you asked about Tyson Fury or about Joshua individually, I don't think there's another fight out there that any, boxing fan would say they would prefer. Like, I don't think anybody's going to sit there and tell you, well, I want to see Fury against Usyk a third time, or I want to see Joshua against Usyk a third time. And I don't know if there's another contender. Is anybody saying they'd rather see Anthony Joshua against, Zhang Zhilei instead of Tyson Fury, or I'd rather see Tyson Fury against somebody else other than against each other? I mean, that's for two guys who are diminished, for two guys who it's not in a world title fight, that they could still most likely fill up Wembley Stadium and do a good number on pay-per-view. Why in the world wouldn't you do that? If they wait, I mean, it just gets that further away, and they risk losing that fight forever. I'd rather have it happen too late, but where it's still solid, than when it's completely no longer relevant and there's not even a reason to see it. It's not quite to the point where it was when they did Amir Khan against Kell Brook, but we're down that road. Let's get it on now, and let's not wait any longer.
Very last question I have for you, and the thought has been bandied about as to the return of Vladimir Klitschko, and he could have been a potential opponent for Daniel Dubois. And then there's also been the suggestion that there might be a rematch between him and Tyson Fury. Where do you feel that Vladimir Klitschko fits in the picture of this heavyweight landscape right now?
I mean, I think it's more that he liked to listen to what they have to say. And I would never put anything past any retired great fighter to think about coming back and think that they can still do it. But I'm going to go back to my days of when Lennox Lewis was deciding what he wanted to do after he had retired. You know, Vladimir, of course, retired a number of years ago, and they were chasing Lennox Lewis around to do possibly a rematch against Vitaly Klitschko. And I sat with Lennox Lewis at a fight one time. We were sitting up in the media section. This was like during the undercard, and I had known Lennox for many years, and I was asking him about that situation, and he turned to me and he says, "What do you think I should do?" And I said, "You want me to tell you like the truth, like what I actually really think?" He's like, "Yeah, please." Uh, Keep in mind, my relationship with Lennox also was we had worked together on like the Epics broadcast for a couple of years, and so I knew him better than just like reporter to fighter. And so my response to Lennox was, "Hey, you love the idea of everybody chasing around, want to throw all this money at you years after this fight. You like the hoopla. You like the idea of the fight itself. You like the idea of getting paid for it. But I don't think you want to go away to training camp and lock yourself away for 10 weeks and go through the grind of getting ready for the fight and do all that kind of preparation when you're a wealthy guy, you got your family, you're doing your thing, that you don't want to do that. You don't want to put yourself through that. So you like the idea of everything other than going through the training camp. Now, in terms of Vladimir Klitschko, the one thing that always amazed me about Vladimir, and it's different than most other fighters I've ever encountered, is he prefers the training camp more than the fight itself. I think he really enjoys going away for the 2 months and being with the guys and the team and preparing and focusing and studying and doing the work. And then all the hoopla and the other stuff he can kind of live without. So it wouldn't totally shock me if he decided he wanted to come back. But I think especially with Fury losing, that ship has sailed. I don't see him. He's not going to fight Oleksandr Usyk for the title. They're countrymen. They've been a mentor against students, so to speak. Their Klitschko company promoted or promotes Oleksandr Usyk. So, I think that Klitschko sort of liked the idea, and I think 10 years on from, or not quite 10 years, but closing in on 10 years of retirement, I think it's he's going to stay away from the ring. I hope he does stay away from the ring.
Dan, that closes our first interview. I hope there's much more. Once again, to the listeners, check out Dan Rafael's Substack. The link will be in the description. Looking forward to the next time we speak, Dan. Have a great rest of your year and a prosperous new year too.
Ayman, thanks for having me on. Good to be with you for the first time.
Pleasure's all mine.